local celebrity hosts, Steve O and Rene. Sit back each week while Steve O and Rene educate you with live in-studio experts, such as lawyers, doctors, home improvement, and financial experts in their field. Call in and have your questions answered each week at 888-565-1470. Now, here is Steve O and Rene with today's expert in their field.
Good afternoon. What a beautiful day outside.
You think?
Yeah, it's like Mr. Rogers, what a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
It rains here every day.
I know, it's crazy. Good afternoon, and welcome to Ask the Experts radio show. I'm Steve O. I'm here with my co-host, Rene. For the next hour, we've got two incredible shows for you. These are two new, one's new and one's one of our shows from last month. We have an expert in tax relief, and I have wanted a show like this because it is so important nowadays.
It's a problem that hits a lot of people.
And we hit a home run. We got not just the best tax relief company locally, but nationally, and the owner-president, Mr. Barry Fowler. Him and his wife flew here from Houston to be on today's show. Hi, Barry.
Hi, Barry.
Hi,
welcome
Steve,
to welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
A Texan like me.
I
So
know.
I'm going to be able to understand him a lot better.
Oh, you
than
telling me I'm not going to understand him?
You're from New York.
Okay.
How could you understand him?
We understand everyone in New York.
Okay.
Settle down there, cowboy. I got two cowboys.
Exactly. Now it's cowboys. So if this is the first time you've tuned in, Rene and I, we interview the top experts in health, legal, financial, and home improvement. And in the second half hour of today's show, we have one of the top criminal attorneys, Michael Leader.
From Leader and Leader, right.
Leader. So this is going to be just a great show. If
Tell
you'd
everybody.
Like to watch
I was just about to say
show,
that, yes.
go to www.taxationsolutions, that's plural.net, and you can actually watch our show live right now, or you can go back and watch it later on.
So like you said, Barry is the president and founder of Taxation Solutions. So, Barry, what is an enrolled agent?
Enrolled agent is basically America's premier tax experts. We're actually licensed by the U.S. Department of Treasury to represent taxpayers to the highest level of the IRS. We protect the American taxpayers.
Wow. So tell us a little bit of background about your company.
Well, I started the company about almost 10 years ago now. Basically, we found a need for the American taxpayers for somebody to step in between them and the IRS. And so we found that something we needed to do. And we started out in Houston, and we've expanded to 27 offices around the country.
Which is incredible. He's actually going to be doing a show. We do Ask the Experts in Houston, Dallas, and San Antonio, and you're going to be doing the show there as well.
I know, it's cool.
Which is, it's incredible.
Looking forward to it. I've been looking forward to getting out here and doing this show. It's going to be great.
You know,
He actually flew in
I know,
to come do the
so
show, which is really
amazing.
impressive.
And what really is because, because we always are looking for tax relief companies, and you learn who are the top ones around the country. You learn because they don't have all that negative stuff about them on the internet. And
Well, you have to be really careful.
exactly. We're going to get into that today, that you have to be careful on who you go with. But I love that we got Taxation Solutions because I didn't see any negative on there at all. Now, listen, we all get some, but I didn't see any, so
Which
we've
is
got
wonderful,
the best
yes,
in the country.
absolutely.
We take a lot of time to protect what we do and protect our clients. And so when somebody does call us, we take a lot of time on the phone with them with a free consultation to basically go through their whole situation and their issue so that we know what we're getting into and they know what they're getting into and what they've got to do for us and what we can do for them to solve their problem.
Yes. So basically, you've been in business for a long time, so you deal directly with the IRS.
Yes, I've been doing taxes for probably 30 years now. And yes, we know exactly how to deal with the IRS between myself, my tax attorneys, my other enrolled agents, and my CPAs that all work for me. We've got you covered.
Okay, so what does that mean for taxpayers when you have somebody like yourself from your company?
Well, what that means is when you pick up the phone and call us and then you hire us to do it, is we're the go-between. The IRS deals with us, not with you. So if the IRS was to pick up the phone and call you because you have a tax problem or you owe them money,
Which is very scary.
yeah, very scary. Or you even get those nasty love letters that we like to talk about that the IRS sends so often. All you got to do is give them our phone number, and we step in.
So it's out of their hands.
Out of their hands. Set your
Which is
mind
a
at ease.
huge relief. It really is.
So with all that experience, I mean, you've probably seen it all.
Oh yeah, I mean we've seen everything. It's just amazing, from retired teachers owing money for some part-time work they did, to small business owners that owe hundreds of thousands of dollars, to individuals getting audited for what we would say almost no reason at all.
And you deal strictly just with federal taxes, was that right?
No, we deal with federal and state,
Oh,
Wow.
wherever it happens to be.
See,
Wherever they need
Barry-
tax relief.
Well, see, Barry's in Texas. We're here in
Yes.
Florida. We don't have a state tax, so we don't never have to worry about that.
but there are states, obviously, that do.
Exactly.
And he handles everything.
That's really good. And tell us, when someone first calls you up, just kind of walk us through, because I would just imagine they are so nervous. They've probably just gotten a letter from the IRS.
It's typically that they're getting audited. Is that correct?
No, typically what we see is when people call in, we do get some of the people that call in for audits, but they owe a lot of money to the IRS, and they've been basically keeping their head in the sand to where they're not dealing with their problem, and now it's gotten really, really bad to where maybe they've levied their bank account, or they're garnishing their wages, or they've put liens on their houses or other property. And so typically they call in, they're really, really frustrated. They don't know what to do or where to turn. They've put it off long enough. And when we try to basically get out of them what caused the problem, where they're at, maybe they haven't filed their taxes in a number of years, and then figure out what's going to be the best solution for them and how they're going to go about solving this problem with us.
By having you involved, does that postpone things? If somebody owes a lot of money, does that put things off that they know somebody's representing them?
It doesn't necessarily put it off, but it puts it in our hands to where we can work with the IRS to establish some reasonable deadlines. Not the deadlines the IRS particularly wants. So they may say, you have to turn something in a week. Well, we can work with the IRS.
Is that the typical deadline, usually like a week?
It depends on how far their situation has come. If they've been dealing with the IRS themselves, or trying to deal with the IRS themselves, that could be an immediate deadline that you've got to have something to them the next day. So we've dealt with all these things.
Why do you think most taxpayers get behind? I mean, what are the stories that you hear? What got them behind in the first place?
Well, probably the most interesting and what we hear most often is at some point in time, 3, 4, 5, 6 years ago, or even longer, they go to file that one return. They've been doing consulting work, or maybe even self-employed, and they owe $10,000 or $20,000, and they go, oh my God, I can't afford this today. And so they don't file the return. And then they don't realize they get hit with the penalty for failure to file, failure to pay, and then all the other penalties on top of it.
It just starts adding up, yeah.
Snowballs. And, so it just continues to get worse, and then they go to file the next year, and they go, well, if I file this year, they're going to want last year's. And so I don't file that one, and then it goes on from there. And then they finally, the
The
IRS catches up
snowball
to them,
effect, yes.
and they've got this mammoth amount of debt out there.
What can the IRS do to you? And I'm asking this because there's people out there who actually do not know.
My typical answer is, what can they not do to you?
Oh, okay.
They are the biggest collection agency
I
in
mean,
the
you
country.
could be put in prison, right?
Oh, you've seen it with the
Yeah.
celebrities and everything else. That's usually a last resort, or to prove a point. But
Because they want their money. They're not looking to put you away. They want their money.
yeah, they want their money. They're going to find a way to get every dime out of you. If you're not using somebody that'll help settle your case and settle your debt to something more reasonable, then yeah, they're going to come after every dime, however they can get it. Levying your bank account and take everything you got in. And the interesting thing is, a lot of times they levy the bank account on your payday. And guess what? You have no money for the weekend.
Wow.
Or
Aside
to pay
from
your bills.
right. I mean, aside from garnishing your paycheck,
Yeah.
they just take it all.
They can take it all. What's ever in your account.
Cars, trucks.
Cars, trucks, homes, those are usually last
So your
results.
home is not protected?
Your home's not protected from the IRS. We've seen it on their websites where they got homes for sale. and that's homes they've taken from people as part of settlement of their debt. But there's a lot of things we do before they would ever get to that situation. That's kind of like the nail in the coffin, where they're going to take everything from you. So what you typically do is scale that back, and we can control a lot of what happens with the IRS.
Wow.
That's why it's so important to use this company, because it's a really scary thought. I mean, you could basically lose everything.
Give them your phone number, because you have offices down here.
Yeah, my Miami number is 786-600-4351.
Okay. So we have a large area. Do they have to come to your office, or can this be done over the phone?
We can deal with everything over the phone. We can
Which is
meet with them.
perfect.
So if they're
That's
in Palm
great,
Beach,
yes.
So if they're in Palm Beach,
So he covers
Call
all
us.
the areas, because all you have to do is call him and he can handle it for you.
You know, one of the reasons why I wanted to do a show like this is there's a lot of scam companies out there. I mean, you know there are. And I'm hearing some, we had someone who owed $1 million and we got him off for 75 cents. And I mean, there's crazy stories out
Right, well,
there.
if it sounds too good to be true.
Exactly.
It's not, right?
So that's why we wanted to bring you on the show, because, and I'm going to tell you something, if you even think that maybe down the future you're going to have a tax problem, a problem with the IRS, I want you to write this number down. Let's give it to them again for the people who aren't watching the show, because you might need this number, because it's a lot better than scurrying through the internet to try to find a company. This is very important.
And also give your website address, because people could go on there and contact you on your website as well.
okay. Our phone number here locally is 786-600-4351, or you can reach us nationwide at our toll-free number of 888-930-1016, or check us out on the website at taxationsolutions.net.
Okay,
Got a great
one-
website, so much
I
information
have one more
on
question. What happens if a taxpayer can't pay back the money, if they don't have the money? I mean, do you set payment plans, like affordable payment plans? Because that's the scariest thought, because if you owe thousands and thousands of dollars and you just can't pay it back, what happens?
We have a lot of options and programs that we can help the taxpayer. That can be everything from the offer and compromise, where we can settle for a lot less than what you owe.
They do that?
They do that.
Wow.
We have some great examples on our website, some of the testimonials, and it's not even all the testimonials we
You got
have.
great testimonials on there. I read them all. Got really good testimonials on there.
Well, he's basically saved their lives.
No kidding.
Yeah. And we've put them back in good, solid ground to be able to live their life again. And, one of the things is the IRS controls you if they control your money. So let's get you back in control of your money and get the IRS out of your life.
That's what I would want to do.
Yes.
But now, do they keep adding penalties, though, during this time?
Well, once we get them into some kind of settlement, if it's the offer and compromise, everything stops. You've got to be in compliance for the next 5 years. Means you've got to file your taxes. You've got to do everything right. And we've got a compliance program that'll help everybody through that as well. You can get into some of the other ways we settle their debt is just doing an installment agreement. If you've got too many assets to be able to settle, we can get you an installment agreement that you can afford. We can even get them into partial pay installment agreements, and we can get them into some of them just non-collectible status.
So there's a lot of
Wow.
options.
So there's a lot of options.
And bankruptcy's not going to protect you on
Not
this, is
from
it?
the IRS.
Well, bankruptcy only protects, and I'm not a lawyer, so
Right, I understand.
I'm not going to go legal grounds on this, but basically bankruptcy can protect you if you've had your taxes filed and you owe from more than 3 years ago, and you filed them more than 3 years ago. Otherwise, it gets included, and the lawyers can explain this better than I can, but you'll end up on a payment plan through the trustee.
Well, let's go to
Oh,
break,
okay.
and when we come back, we have more with the founder, the president of Taxation
big
Solutions, Barry Fowler. We'll be right back.
Do you owe the IRS $10,000 or more? Is the IRS levying your bank account or garnishing your wage? Taxation Solutions protects the future of today's taxpayer and can get you a fresh start. Their staff of professionals have a genuine concern for the IRS issues their clients face. Taxation Solutions have programs to stop the IRS and help you solve your IRS debt, IRS audit, innocent spouse, IRS seizures, offers, and compromise. Taxation Solutions are the leading experts in the industry. They look at each case objectively and honestly to help their clients identify the best solution. Call today for peace of mind and a free consultation at 786-600-4351. Don't stick your head in the sand anymore. Call now, 786-600-4351, or go on their website, taxationsolutions.net. Call 786-600-4351.
And we're back with Barry Fowler, the president at Taxation Solutions. So I hear all the time claims that companies could settle for pennies on the dollar. Is that true? As far as taxes are concerned, does that happen?
It happens.
Okay.
The claims and what you hear on some of the ads that are out there, in my opinion, are exaggeration because not everybody qualifies for that.
Right.
A little catch there.
But we've done it. You'll see the testimonials on our website at taxationsolutions.net. But, it's not everybody. And we put on our website as well those people that we get into some of these installment agreements and the partial pay and other things that we can do for people to help solve their tax problem. But you'll also see examples where we've taken people that have owed well over $300,000 and settled for $1,000.
Wow.
That's crazy.
It is.
So let me ask you something, aside from that. If you close down a corporation, if you're protected under a corporation, you still owe monies and taxes, are you still liable for those taxes after the fact?
Now, that's kind of a big question because it depends on the type of corporation that you're running, if it's an S Corp or C Corp. And then it also depends on what kind of taxes it is.
Okay.
Because if you're an S Corp, everything flows through to the personal tax return and you're taxed there anyway. C Corp, you close it down, and if it's just corporate income taxes, we can get rid of those taxes for you.
But not like sales tax?
But not like sales tax,
Right.
because a lot of those are going to come, you're going to have the state authorities coming after you, and they're coming after you personally. But if it's payroll taxes, the interesting thing about payroll taxes is that once they're assessed and you don't pay them, they're going to come after the responsible parties.
Because the employees actually pay the payroll taxes. I mean, it's deducted.
It's
so
a trust fund.
Right, so you're keeping those funds basically and not paying it.
Exactly. You're taking those funds and you're using them for your own purpose to either maybe help grow your business because it's really tight and
Right.
you need the cash flow, but it's still a trust fund. And the interesting thing, or the real bad thing for that employer and the employees that could be responsible for that, is
The employees would be responsible for that?
The employees, as far as it goes, is if they had check writing ability and could sign the checks,
okay.
then they could make a determination not to pay those payroll taxes and they could be held responsible. We've seen that happen. But they can come after them personally. And what they do, the IRS does, is assesses a trust fund penalty against the company and all responsible individuals.
Wow, that's crazy. So you have to be really careful who you choose, what type of company, aside from yourself,
Yes.
aside from your company. You have to be really careful.
You got to be very careful. You got to check them out and talk to them, and you also got to make sure that whatever you're doing, it's not just what you want to hear, because there's a lot of companies that'll just get on the phone and tell you what you want to hear. So yes, I can settle your debt, I can do this, but they're not going to explain to you, what they can do for you, and they're not going to take the time to walk you through what your real situation is.
So what are some of the questions to ask?
What is your past history? And how are you going to get this settlement? If they're not asking you where you're at financially and how much money you have and what your assets are, then they have no way of making a determination what the settlement should be.
Right.
None of us can guarantee exactly what the IRS is going to allow, but my company, my guys, and the people that will talk to you on the phone, all our tax consultants, will shoot you honestly, what they think we can do. Now, if you hide something from me and you don't tell us what you have,
That's a problem.
the second home that's free and
Yes.
clear, you got a problem.
Right,
There's
exactly.
nothing we can do about
But you
that.
got to be honest.
But there's people out there right now, I know there who've hired a tax relief company. They're not happy with them. They're not returning phone calls.
So can't you switch over?
Can't you listen? And you can go with whoever you want. Is that
Right.
right?
Yeah,
Or
you
have they
can-
signed
At
a
any time,
contract?
even if they've spoken to the IRS.
Even if they've spoken to the IRS, the only thing that would be is there's some of these companies out there that if you've signed a contract, they're going to take every dime that you signed that contract for. And so sometimes you're going
Wow.
to want to deal with them. But you also got to look at the situation they're putting you in, and are they getting something done for you? And if they're not, call us. We'll
I
help
actually
you do
read
it.
stuff on when
You have to be really careful.
when I knew Barry was going to be coming on. I mean, there's like companies out there that people are screaming at. They won't return their phone calls. They've paid them already, and it's been months since they've heard from them and nothing. I mean, I did a lot of research on this, and there's a lot of bad companies out there.
Yeah, there are a lot of bad companies. In my company, what we try to do is making sure that whether we're waiting on the IRS or not, we're staying in touch with everybody at least a couple times a month. Once we got a solution that's almost in place and we're just waiting on the IRS, it may be once a month just to let them know that, hey, we still haven't heard anything from the IRS, but we're always reaching out.
At least you keep them up to date about everything.
Yes.
Because it is a scary thought.
You do handle businesses also.
We do handle businesses as well as individuals.
What are some of these businesses? Some of the stories, the horror stories you've heard on businesses that have approached you and come to you for help.
Most of the time, that's going to be the payroll taxes.
Payroll taxes, okay.
It's the biggest horror story we see out there, and the down economy we've had for the last 6-7 years now. Texas has been coming back and been doing great. Really never lost step, but the people we deal with across
That's
the
because of
country.
Rick Perry.
Rick Perry, yes.
Big fan.
Don't get into politics.
I'm
with
not.
her.
I'm just saying I'm a big fan of his.
She is. She
I
really
am.
is. I
Hey,
know.
well, I'm from Texas. I'm a big fan of his as well as George Bush. So, but that's what it is.
Right.
So it's nice to know that these problems can be solved. They got to be honest with you. They got to tell you everything up front. How long does the process usually take from the time they call you to the time you've come back and sit down with them and say, this is what we've worked out? How long is that process?
The solutions that we put in place will be everywhere from 6 weeks, 8 weeks, to where we can actually maybe get the IRS to stop doing some things that they're doing right now as far as levying their account or wage garnishments.
You can
even.
stop that.
We can get some things stopped, and
Because they know that it's being attended to now.
Right,
You're not
exactly.
they don't like to be ignored, do
it's
they?
being attended to, and we've gotten the taxpayer to make some adjustments so that we can get those things resolved sooner rather than later. Some of them are going to take longer to do that, depending on how mad the IRS or how bad the revenue officer has gotten on that case.
But what causes that for them to get so irate? Ignoring them, right?
Ignoring them, agreeing to things, missing deadlines, not doing
Saying
what
that you're going to be making a payment and not.
right, not doing the little things that the revenue officer wants to see. But once we get out there and we get the taxpayer working with us, then we can get a lot of things in place to slow that down. The offers and compromise are going to take anywhere from a year to 2 years to actually get resolved. So it's a long process out there, depending on the client and the situation that we're in.
Right, so if they make some sort of agreement, at least the payroll checks won't be garnished or banks be levied. I mean, that's a scary thought.
Yeah, it is. I mean, if I was in that situation, I definitely would not want to be seeing the IRS coming after me and sending more letters
Me
and
neither.
levying my account or putting a lien on my home or anything else. That becomes very scary.
It really does.
I don't mind admitting it now.
What now? What'd you do?
I actually had like 25 years ago, an ex-girlfriend who called the IRS. Remember, X, that was the key, X, and said, I'm doing all this crazy stuff. And I got a call from them, and those guys are scary. Now, they finally realized what had gone on, and they actually sent me a letter apologizing. It was a letter from Washington, D.C., but wow, those guys.
See, now if you have a problem, you call Barry.
Yeah, of course. That's right.
He'll take care of it for you.
But I mean, those guys can really put
They're
the hammer
intimidating, yes.
Yeah, and it gets scary out there, and just even on our end, listening to some of the things the RO tells us what they're going to do or what they've done or where they're at in the whole process, we just kind of look at it and go, wow, if I was sitting on the other end, I wouldn't want to be there.
But you're used to doing this.
Yes.
This is your expertise.
This is our expertise. This is what we do. My tax attorneys, my other enrolled agents, and my CPAs that work for me, this is what they spend their whole day doing, is being on the phone with the IRS, with our clients, and solving tax problems.
These are the people to call. So if you're having tax problems, these are the people to call. Give your phone number out again.
Locally here in Miami, 786-600-4351. Nationwide, toll-free, 888-930-1016. Or check us out on the web at taxationsolutions.net.
Great website. But I'm telling you that, listen, you never know when you're going to get a call from them.
That's exactly it.
And the last thing you want to do is have to, what do I do? Who should I talk to? Don't Google anybody.
And don't handle it yourself.
Exactly. Don't try to handle it yourself, because
Get an expert involved with you.
these people will tear you. Can I say tear you a new one?
How about Terry the Shreds?
Whatever. You know what? I'm in a way trying to scare people, to let them know that.
Listen, you don't have to scare people. The IRS does a good job of that.
I understand. So now, tell us about some of your other offices. I know you've got offices in Houston. You've got offices here.
He is everywhere.
I've got an office in Orlando. I've got them in South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, New York, Ohio, Indiana,
There's a
Illinois.
reason I asked you this, because something else I learned. All these kind of scam companies out there, they were downsizing. We're no longer in that state anymore. We're no longer there anymore. Here's Barry. You're like really spread out all over now.
Yeah, we just opened Baltimore about 2 weeks ago, and we opened Las Vegas about 6 weeks ago.
So see, that shows you right there, because, I mean, it was like the stories on there about some of these companies. I keep seeing there. I've heard a couple ads here in town that the IRS has something new out there, that they're gonna some kind of forgiving program.
Oh yeah, the Fresh Start program that's been around for about 3 years now.
No, it's not new. Okay. The IRS has a new program out now.
Good one, Steve O.
It just started 3 years ago. No, but it's running now. I hear it.
Yeah, we hear the ads all the time
I'm
about
sure
the
you
Fresh
do.
Start program, and it's been going on for a couple of years. So, don't
Don't
fall for
rely on that.
But, we know what the Fresh Start program is. We know how to use their Fresh Start program. We know all the programs the IRS has to solve the problems, and that's what we're going to put forth for every client that we have and every taxpayer that we can help, and whether they're here in Miami or anywhere in the U.S.
Here you go. Do the rules change very often? I mean, do you have to constantly keep up with changes that are going on?
We're always keeping up with what the new rules are and how to comply with each
You're
one of the
talking about the
IRS
government.
programs.
Of course, there's new rules. Every day there's new rules.
Okay, listen, thank you so much for coming. Came in all the way from Houston with
I
his
know.
wife, Meg, and we just thank you so much. He's going to be doing our Houston and our San Antonio
And he's going to be
shows.
calling into this show.
Exactly. So thanks so much for coming in. This is Barry Fowler. The name of the company is Taxation Solutions. Thanks for coming in,
Thanks
Barry.
for coming in, Barry.
Thank you both for having me.
Wow.
It's been a pleasure.
We'll be right back on the other side
With Michael Leader.
Leader, criminal attorney.
Do you owe the IRS $10,000 or more? Is the IRS levying your bank account or garnishing your wage? Taxation Solutions protects the future of today's taxpayer and can get you a fresh start. Their staff of professionals have a genuine concern for the IRS issues their clients face. Taxation Solutions have programs to stop the IRS and help you solve your IRS debt, IRS audit, innocent spouse, IRS seizures, offers, and compromise. Taxation Solutions are the leading experts in the industry. They look at each case objectively and honestly to help their clients identify the best solution. Call today for peace of mind and a free consultation at 786-600-4351. Don't stick your head in the sand anymore. Call now, 786-600-4351, or go on their website, taxationsolutions.net. Call 786-600-4351.
Hi, I'm Steve O with the Ask How to Buy a New and Used Car from one of the top dealerships in South Florida. If you have a business and would like to be part of the Ask the Expert show, contact us at 954-336-3767. Position your company as an expert in your field. Call Ask the Experts radio show at 954-336-3767. Be sure to catch our show every Friday from 4 to 5 p.m. or watch our show live at wwnnradio.com and click on the WWNN TV link.
When you need an aggressive, experienced, and knowledgeable criminal or DUI defense attorney, turn to the law firm of Leader & Leader, PA. With nearly 80 years of combined experience, Michael D. Leader is a former prosecutor with considerable experience, not just in all areas of criminal law, but also DUI defense. Michael Leader has dedicated his entire practice to the art of defeating DUI and criminal cases for a period of time. The criminal and DUI defense law firm of Leader & Leader, PA has a remarkable track record. They develop a close working relationship with each of their clients prior to deciding how to proceed with your case in order to tailor the approach and defense to each individual client and their needs. They are always available to their clients. At Leader & Leader, they offer every type of criminal defense, including DUI, federal drug charges, white-collar crime or fraud cases, theft offenses, violations of probation or early termination, and all other criminal matters from investigation to trial. Let the criminal and DUI law firm of Leader & Leader, PA explore all of your options. Call them today at 954-523-2020. That's 954-523-2020. Or go to their website at criminallawleader.com. Do not take chances when it comes to your freedom or the possibility of jail or prison time. Free in-office or telephone consultations for all criminal matters. Do not hesitate. Call the Criminal Law Leader today, 954-523-2020.
And we're back. What a show today.
It really is.
First tax relief and now our criminal law show.
So let's welcome to the studio Michael Leader with the law firm Leader & Leader.
And if you want to watch this show, all you have to do is go to www.criminallawleader.com. The show's on there live right now. And you can actually go back later on and watch the show also. And the purpose of this show is you never know if you're going to get in trouble or not. You never know if you're going to be pulled over by the police. I mean, even if you've never been arrested in your life before. So it's really important that you listen today and take down Michael's phone number and his website. So let's welcome Michael Leader.
Thank you,
Welcome
guys.
to the show.
Thanks. It's great to be back. I appreciate you having me.
This is another one of those firms that I just, everything, all we did when we were looking at different law firms, I didn't see anything negative about Leader & Leader on there. So I said, this firm's got to be good because there's always someone out there is complaining about something. But it was really good having,
It's funny you
like
say that. I mean, there's a lot of accolades that lawyers can get, and I've been honored and recognized in a lot of different ways, and some of them mean things, and some of them are nice, and they look important to clients, but the one thing that I'm most proud of, and I'm going to knock wood saying this.
I love that he did that.
I've been doing this approximately 16 years, counting my internship time at the state attorney's office, and I don't know anybody that's been practicing as long as I've been practicing in criminal law that hasn't had some sort of grievance. And I'm not saying that it was justified, but typically people in criminal and family especially do not go through a career without grievances from clients because they're upset, they're frustrated, even if it's not the lawyer's fault.
Right, if they didn't get off for a
I've
particular crime.
never had a grievance from a client in my career. I
That's
haven't had
wonderful.
anything like that. I attribute it to being honest, upfront, being straight with my clients, not sugarcoating things, not telling them what they want to hear to hire me, and then all of a sudden things change. I mean, there's a lot of reasons, but I work hard for my clients. We get good results. We're honest with them. But it's funny you say that because it's the thing that I'm probably most proud of in the area that I practice, and the fact that
because we do
happened.
a search. I mean, these are. Michael can't say this, but we can. These are the top experts in their field.
Exactly.
So we always do a search. It would be horrible, be embarrassing. But You're right, though. I mean, some of the attorneys we have, they had a few grievances. I didn't find
Which is
one
not
on
right,
you.
which is not uncommon.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Why don't you give out the phone number if anybody has a question for Michael? They could call us.
okay. It's
888-565-1470.
We've got so many radio shows.
Steve, you mentioned something else that I think is really timely and appropriate, especially for my practice. You said you never know when something's going to happen to you. You never know when you can be stopped.
Exactly.
In the last week and a half, I've had 3 cases where I've helped people. There's a difference between being innocent and not guilty. Being that innocent, you didn't do it. Not
Right.
guilty means the state can't prove their case. All right?
Okay.
There's a big difference. I've had 3 people that I genuinely believe were not guilty, should never have been charged. It was love triangles, it was an angry person, whatever the case may be. And so far, 2 of the 3 we've already had exonerated. We've kept criminal charges from being filed at all because we were extremely aggressive and proactive. We jumped on it right away. But just I would say in the last 10 days, I've had 3 cases like that. Some people with no criminal history, they never imagined in a million years sitting here at this time today that they would need a criminal lawyer. And then by the next morning, they were calling me because something happened that they could never have fathomed or imagined.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, you don't ever say it can't happen to me. You can't ever say it. So what we want to make sure, first of all, we want to make sure that you write Michael's phone number down. Give him your phone number at your office.
954-523-2020, and we can be reached 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
You
Tell
never
everybody,
know.
tell everybody the types of cases you handle.
Yep. Well, I have. I don't lump it together. I am a criminal defense attorney. I do everything from minor traffic criminal to major federal drug trafficking cases. But in addition to that, not a lot of people lump it as part of criminal defense. To me, it's separate. I am a DUI defense attorney. There was a period of my career that I did nothing but DUI defense. I was recruited out of the state attorney's office by what was then arguably the most preeminent DUI defense firm in the country. In fact, the man that trained me was the guy that created the concept of DUI defense. It didn't exist before him. He wrote the book. He's unfortunately no longer with us, but a lot of what I know and a lot of the way I break down cases and the way I've developed my career in defense and DUI is predicated upon that initial training. I thought when I left the state, I've handled thousands of these. I can pick these apart. I know what I'm doing. And I spent a couple months learning from this guy, and I realized I would have been abysmal when I left the state if I just tried to defend these cases without that additional training and learning how to really truly break down a DUI case. And it's really an art, and I consider what I do the art of defender, the art of winning a DUI case. And it's dissecting the case and knowing the right way to do it.
That's why it's very important who you select to handle your cases, because you see a lot of attorneys, and I've said this to you before, that handle personal injury and criminal law and
Like a
DUI.
boutique of,
Exactly. You want somebody that's going to specialize in the problem that you have. And what's the difference between a criminal defense and DUI? I mean, what's the difference between that?
No, I'm glad you asked. DUIs are criminal offenses, so
Right.
don't get me wrong. They're absolutely criminal. In fact, DUIs have the worst statutory penalties of any misdemeanor there is. I mean, you could get caught with felony offenses that are much more serious and walk away with a much lesser penalty because there's incredible statutory penalties that are minimum mandatories for DUI in Florida, greatly because of the power of certain lobby groups like Mothers Against Drunk Driving,
Yes.
things like that have developed over the years. And if you go in and plea or you're convicted of a DUI, even as a first-time offender, it's a permanent conviction. You can never get rid of it, never get it off your record, never get anything else sealed or
Wow.
expunged. And you're looking at thousands of dollars in fines, expenses, probation, community service, license suspensions, vehicle immobilizations.
For first offense.
First offense, devices in your car that you have to blow into, community service. I mean, all of this stuff, not one or the other. All of these things are part of the statutory guidelines. $1,000 to $2,000 fines on a first offense if it's enhanced. $480 in court costs, roughly. I mean, it will cost you thousands. Plus, your insurance could go up 300 to 500% for 3 to 5 years. So, getting convicted of a DUI could easily end up costing you over a 3-year period $4,000 to $8,000 on a first offense.
Wow.
I mean, it's crazy.
So, okay, do you handle Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach County?
You know, I generally I am in all 3 of those counties. In fact, I would say the last couple weeks it's been pretty evenly split. I was in Palm Beach this morning. I'll be in Broward tomorrow. I was in Dade 2 or 3 times last week. However, for federal cases and DUIs, I'm available around the state. DUIs, I do get hired all over the state. it does cost people more outside of Dade, Broward, or Palm Beach to hire me because of the time involved, the travel.
But it's worth it for them.
Listen, I could tell you I've won my last 1 million cases, and it doesn't mean that I'd win yours, but my track record on cases out of area, a lot of people think, oh, yeah, I only want a local lawyer. And a lot of times, for certain situations, that's true.
But not for
because
that.
there's no discretion in DUIs, it's all about the guidelines anyway. So the prosecutor can't really offer a better plea to the local guy than they can me because there's minimums. There's required minimums. I found that I've been very effective. Actually, just about every out-of-area case I've handled, I've had good outcomes for my clients. So
The guidelines change by county?
No. They're statutory by the state.
Okay.
Some
Wow.
counties may have other, like a judge or a county, they may do something. For example, there was a judge in Palm Beach that was requiring every DUI plea in his courtroom, even on a first offense, you had to do 90 A meetings in 90 days. And his position was if you got arrested, there must be something. There are motions to recuse him from DUI cases because of his attitude about that. He ended up leaving the division after, 20 some odd years. So we don't really have that with too many judges here in South Florida anymore. But certain counties and certain judges have their own little idiosyncrasies, things that they'll require in every case.
Okay, so the biggest question I have is, so if you're pulled over and a police officer suspects that you've been drinking, should you agree to do the breathalyzer?
Okay, so this is a tough question. And we touched on this last week, and let me talk about this a little bit.
And talk about the different types of testings, too.
Yeah, absolutely. The first thing when the officer makes contact with you, they have to be able to articulate a reasonable basis for suspicion of DUI, not just odor of alcohol. There has to be more. So the first thing they're generally going to ask you to do is roadside exercises.
Which is what?
When you hear about people walking the line, finger to
yes,
nose,
yeah,
that kind of thing,
right.
right? Now, people think these are based on your physical performance, and they're really not. They're called divided attention exercises. I'm not a big fan of them because when I was a prosecutor, I had the most experienced DUI officer in the Broward County at the time. He was on the DUI task force for Broward Sheriff's Office. I had him administer the exercises to me in the office. When he finished, he started chuckling. I said, "What's so funny?"
You failed? Did you fail?
He said, "I would have taken you to jail."
Wow, that's
that's
scary, though.
incredible, yeah.
That's
so
really scary.
now, at the time, I was more than 50 pounds overweight, so they weren't validated for me, but most officers will still do them. I have physical injuries to, at the time, I didn't have my ankle injury, but I had knee injuries from playing football. So, I mean, I had some minor issues, but, it was incredible to me. And I've seen clients that I've known or believed not to be impaired that have been arrested, and it depends on the officer administering them. Most officers that I depose and cross-examine, you talk about the guidelines that they're supposed to be following set by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, otherwise known as NHTSA, and you ask them about the guidelines and what do you look for in this exercise? How many things do you need to validate it? Most of them can't even answer the question.
But what happens if you decline?
So here's the tricky part, right? They're supposed to tell you if you decide not to do these exercises, I'm going to have to base my decision on what I've seen so far. They're not allowed to say if you don't do them, I'm going to arrest you, but they basically say if you don't do them, I'm going to arrest you.
So do they arrest you if you decline?
Frequently they will, and this is where it gets tricky, right? Because it's just like if an officer asks you, do you know why I stopped you? And if you say no, he gives you the ticket for speeding, but if you're honest, maybe he won't. Every officer's different,
right.
So I can't tell you because I don't know who's stopping you, what their attitude is, and how they're going to respond, and that's why it's a problem. But I generally would say this. I am not, if it were me, and I don't drink and drive. I may have a single drink knowing what the measured amount of the drink was, maybe in the course of a night, but I don't do it. My parents, when I was a kid, got through to me.
It's a smart thing to do, not drink and drive.
And I know the expense and cost of it. So it's something
you're
I
the
personally don't
expert,
do.
right.
But with that being said, if I got pulled over and I was asked to do them knowing I hadn't even drank, I probably wouldn't do them because of the experience I had where I was I was much younger than I am now, and I failed in the office in the middle of the day.
But then you get arrested.
Right? But I rather do that, especially if it would also matter to me if they're being videotaped or not. And not most people in your situation aren't going to know how to identify, or they're going to be afraid to ask the officer, are you videotaping this? If it was videotaped, I would probably be less concerned, and I may be inclined. But the problem is, if you've had one or two drinks and you're not sure, you're probably better off not, because there's a lot of reasonable explanations. And what I always tell people is this. You be polite, you be respectful, you say as little as possible, I generally don't recommend making any admissions to drink urine authorized, but that comes into another tricky point because
Sometimes you can smell like liquor.
right, if the officer smells it and you say no, then he thinks you're lying, and then that may be one of those guys where I was going to give him a break, but now I'm taking him to jail. So you just don't know is the problem. However, I believe in saying as little as possible, and if it were me, I would say, officer, listen, I feel like you're accusing me of something here. If you're asking me to do roadsides, you're basically accusing me, or in your mind you think that I'm an impaired driver. And I know I've done nothing wrong. I feel like I'm being wrongfully accused, so I'm going to ask to speak to my attorney before I do anything else.
And they're going to take you to prison.
And
now.
they're gonna
so that's
say-
the scariest thought, because people are driving and may have had a drink and know that they're not impaired, and then they're afraid to go to prison. I mean, I'd be petrified.
Well, it's jail, not prison. There is a difference. But
Okay.
yeah, you would spend a
always
night.
says that she
You
goes
would,
to
spend,
prison.
you would spend a night in jail, and you would spend at least 8 hours before they can release you.
That's not.
So, I mean, the problem is this. I would tell them respectfully, I don't think I've done anything wrong. They're going to say you don't have a right to an attorney at the roadside, and that is correct. But I would tell them, I understand that's what you're telling me, but until I have a chance to speak to my lawyer, I'm going to respectfully decline to do anything. And I understand that you're doing your job, but I feel like I'm being falsely accused, and I'm going to respectfully decline to do anything.
I have to put Michael's phone number in my cell phone.
You know, and as far as the breath test, you asked about that. It's a whole different issue. Now, what you need to understand is, at the point they're asking you for a breath test, under Florida law, you're under arrest already. You're not going to be unarrested.
Really?
You're still being booked and spending the night in jail. With the old machine they used to use in Florida, 5,000, I never remember seeing a breath reading in a case where I said, there's no way. This just can't make sense to me. I don't believe it. They switched, God, I lose track of how many years it is now, 5 years, maybe 7 years, somewhere in that ballpark, to the Intoxilizer 8000 series in Florida, which is now the machine used and approved in Florida. I have seen at least 25 cases, at least, where based on hard facts and evidence that I knew, there was no way that I could reconcile the breath test result and what my client had to consume based on a number of factors and evidence that I believe to be reliable. So I've had too many cases where I question the value and generally the scientific principles and the way these things work. There is a reasonable basis of accuracy, or can be, to them. But I've seen too many things that cause me too much concern. So it's a misdemeanor in Florida to refuse a breath test for a second time. So I can't give people blanket advice to refuse, because I'd be advising them to break the law.
For a second time. How
Right.
about the first time? So you could refuse the first time.
It's a case-by-case analysis, and what I tell you is this. If you know that you had literally one bottle of Bud Light with a dinner and nothing else to drink, I would say you should absolutely blow, because there's no way you could be blown over unless the machine is completely broken. Because you got to remember, drinks are not a glass. People think of them like a glass.
Right.
You get a Long Island iced tea, and we talked about this, I think, last time.
We did.
Or you'd even just get a vodka tonic. The bartender, you don't see them pour it, may have 3 ounces, not 1 ounce of vodka. So you've really had 3 drinks, not 1. So if you know what your measured drink is, what you actually had to drink, and you're able, and you know you feel fine, maybe you want to blow. But if you have doubts, I feel it's better to have a refusal than a reading over the limit in defending my clients.
Let's go to break, and when we come back, I want to talk to Michael about when you're pulled over. Look at all the things go on in the news. Some lady wouldn't show any ID, and another one was arguing with the police. They just got pulled over. So, listen, we never know when it's going to happen. So, I want to talk about that when we come back.
Perfect.
Okay, listen to this.
When you need an aggressive, experienced, and knowledgeable criminal or DUI defense attorney, turn to the law firm of Leader & Leader, PA. With nearly 80 years of combined experience, Michael D. Leader is a former prosecutor with considerable experience, not just in all areas of criminal law, but also DUI defense. Michael Leader has dedicated his entire practice to the art of defeating DUI and criminal cases for a period of time. The criminal and DUI defense law firm of Leader & Leader, PA has a remarkable track record. They develop a close working relationship with each of their clients prior to deciding how to proceed with your case in order to tailor the approach and defense to each individual client and their needs. They are always available to their clients. At Leader & Leader, they offer every type of criminal defense, including DUI, federal drug charges, white-collar crime or fraud cases, theft offenses, violations of probation or early termination, and all other criminal matters from investigation to trial. Let the criminal and DUI law firm of Leader & Leader, PA explore all of your options. Call them today at 954-523-2020. That's 954-523-2020. Or go to their website at criminallawleader.com. Do not take chances when it comes to your freedom or the possibility of jail or prison time. Free in-office or telephone consultations for all criminal matters. Do not hesitate. Call the Criminal Law Leader today, 954-523-2020.
And we're back. Well, let me tell you something. I love when Michael comes on the show because, first of all, we know he's such a reputable attorney.
And he truly is an expert in his field.
But you know what? When it comes to criminal law, like any other kind of law, you kind of have an idea. You never know what's going to happen to you when it comes to criminal law.
Right.
I
And
mean,
you need
might have
somebody
already
that's
had one
honest
drink.
and reputable.
And
Yes.
we got the holidays coming up. We got Christmas coming up. With those New Year's Eve parties. I mean, let me tell you something. I want you right now, because you never know. You don't want to just call someone. We don't use the Yellow Pages anymore.
Or
we
Google
use,
somebody, right.
But write Michael's phone number down. Your number is the office.
954-523-2020, and we offer free consultations and
24/7.
24/7. You have a problem, obviously, if it's not an emergency, it's not pressing, you don't have an arrest, you just have a question. I prefer you not
Yes.
call 3 in the morning, but we're available when people have emergencies, they have real problems, we're available around the clock, and you're going to get me, not some paralegal or somebody else. If it's 3 in the morning and you have a loved one that's being arrested and you need advice, I'm the guy you're
Right, you don't want to talk to a
Now,
receptionist.
impaired
You'll
is
get
not-
my answering service first, but if it's that kind
Then
of
you'll call
hours, but
back.
then they'll connect you through or email me and I'll get in touch with you. They try to connect me live if it's a pending emergency or something like that.
Now, impaired is not just alcohol, right? It's
Absolutely
also
not.
drugs too.
Correct. And it's going to be interesting. We'll see. We're not there yet, but what happens with medical marijuana, because that's
Yes.
going to be
Oh.
a huge issue with
It's already is in
DUI.
Colorado.
Yeah.
I mean, they're finding
No, but it
people
passed,
driving
it's
5
passed
miles
in
an
Florida
hour.
now, right?
It hasn't passed.
Oh, it hasn't.
The only thing that's passed right now is a pill medication for children with epilepsy.
Oh, okay.
That has no effect of making you feel high or euphoric effect from the THC or cannabis.
I read a story that in Colorado that people are speeding, but they're driving like 10 miles an hour in the middle of the lane. But that is, you know what? I've heard that they're having all kinds of accidents there now, and I don't know what's going to happen with it. But any thoughts on?
I mean, I don't know, Steve. I think there are a lot of people there that wanted to smoke pot. Were smoking pot regardless
I
if it was
believe
legal
that,
or illegal. So I don't know how much. I'm sure there's an increase because there are people that said, "Well, I'd like to do it, or I did it in college, but now I'm an adult and it's illegal, so I'm not going to do it." And once it became legal, maybe they felt free to do it. But I think there's probably a large percentage of the population that was already doing it anyway. And
Probably so.
how much of an influx we'll see in those types of cases, I don't know. Obviously, I think a lot of people feel that alcohol, you're not supposed to drive, but they think, oh, it's just pot, it's fine. But, look, if you're smoking, let somebody else drive, try not to drive. It's just not safe. You don't want to forget the criminal effects. You don't want to hurt yourself or somebody else because most people do not do well living and coping with that. It's not an easy thing.
And does that show up in a breathalyzer as well?
No, but if they have a basis, they can request urine or blood. Blood is an interesting issue now because the United States Supreme Court came down with a case that it's not an automatic entitlement to blood, that they may need a warrant and that they have to prove exigent circumstances. It used to be they could just get blood under certain circumstances anytime, and now the Supreme Court has said just because it's a DUI doesn't automatically mean you don't need a warrant. So it's creating a new line of defenses. In fact, a number of lawyers are starting to file, because of that Supreme Court case, a motion saying that you need a warrant just for a breath test. Now, I don't think judges are going to easily go for that motion, but it's an interesting argument because they're saying making you shove something into your mouth and blow something out is intrusive, and that they should need a
Interesting.
warrant. So we'll see what happens with that.
I'm going to ask Michael this again, and I think it's really important to tell people why they should hire your firm. There's a lot of criminal attorneys out there. Besides just you have the experience, tell them why. We're not just talking DUI now either. It could be drug possession. You do other things besides.
Yeah, I do everything. In fact, all those cases I told you about in the last week where I've literally, had a dramatic effect and potentially saved these people's lives and careers, were all non-DUI matters. They're battery, domestic situations. One was a grand theft. He had a rental car. They picked it up, said he stole it when they screwed up the rental paperwork, and he had
Well, oh my
extended his
God.
rental. So, you never know. But the bottom line is, I'm aggressive. I stay on top of it. I'm honest with people. I know what I'm doing. I know the law. I don't just try to deal with the facts of the case, but I try to address and deal with the process and use every way to win. But when it comes to DUI especially, I'm not knocking anybody. There's a lot of good criminal defense lawyers out there, but I unfortunately feel that about 85% or so of the people that do what I do in criminal or DUI, they're burnt out, they don't care, they don't have the skill set, whatever it is. Once they get paid, they don't care, and they don't really fight once they've been paid.
Which is a really scary thought.
And that happens a lot.
Yes.
I will fight for my clients to the end. I know what I'm doing. I know how to do it. If there's a way to win, I'm going to find it. And my success and outcome on my cases since I've been in private practice speak for itself, and I would put my numbers up against anybody. And the results I've had, the relationships I have with my clients, the way that I treat my clients, and the fact that my clients are my largest source of my referrals. I don't really advertise.
I love how passionate Michael is. I mean, listen,
if I need a criminal attorney, I'm calling Michael.
no, but I mean, you see so much. I mean, a couple times I'll watch the Broward County Jail on the courts on the internet.
The magistrates, yep.
And wow, I mean, man, that would just drive me, the things that you see on an ongoing basis, and you still have that passionate and that drive. That's the kind of attorney I'd want.
Absolutely.
I love what I do, and if
tell.
there's something about your case that is so heinous to me, I'll refer you out. If I'm not going to fight for you, I'm not going to take your case just over money. So I have had somebody came to me. He was accused of molesting like 11 little boys in his apartment complex, and he didn't admit he did it, but he kind of inferred that he did. And I'm a father, and I wasn't going to fight for this guy. I sent him to somebody that does a ton of sex cases.
Right, morally, you can't even do that.
I wanted him to get the bet. He's entitled to a defense, and my heart wasn't going to be in it. So that's another reason. I'm
Do you
going to fight
handle
for every
domestic
client.
violence?
Well,
Yep.
he just said that he did,
Because
yeah.
I'm saying next time, there's so much domestic violence going on, more than ever before. It's all over the papers. And I'd like to get into that a little bit next month. Michael's with us every month. He does our criminal talk show.
Give your phone number out once more.
Again, 954-523-2020. And Steve mentioned that he wanted to talk about people with cars and police officers, and we'll talk about that next month as well.
That can
We
get
have a
you put in
lot to
jail,
talk
too.
about with
I know.
Michael.
And give him your website again. I love your website.
Please, you can check us out at www.criminallawleader.com. We try to put some useful information on there and tell you a little about us and what we do.
Perfect.
Wonderful. Hey, join us again on Friday. We have Johnny Elias, family attorney, and we have a great home care company.
Right. Everyone have a happy and healthy new year.
Happy, healthy, folks.
Peace and love.
We're out.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Experts show with Steve O and Rene. Tune in every Friday from 4 to 5 p.m. while some of the top local experts in their field from Broward and Palm Beach counties educate you in the areas of law, health, financial, and home improvement. You can also call our offices at 888-574-6999 to become an expert on our show. The opinions expressed